So here we are on Post Ignorance Radio, KWCR, and I want to get to the salmon numbers right off the get. This great epic acute collapse on the Columbia River, which is the big. I mean, you want to know everything about the Pacific Ocean, the Columbia River. 2.5 miles long, the beast, the Chinook salmon, who can grow up to 100 pounds, live in the Pacific Ocean for 5 years on average. Record returns in 2014, record returns in 2015. Now, we call it escapement. That's how many little fish get out of the hatcheries, get in. We had record escapement, expecting record returns in 2016, 17, 18, and 19. This catastrophe is on. The run is in earnest right now. Uh-oh, what happened?
What?
Oh, you're still there?
Yes.
Yeah, I just lost it in my earphones. But anyway, so we're live streaming on Facebook. But today's number, this is important. They had 138 today. We have 855 for the year. What should we have for the year? Well, the 10-year mean is we're right around 30,000. And so, you know, we have a diluted 10-year mean because last year's number was so bad, last year's horrific number. This thing, the Columbia River salmon are running at 4% of the diluted 10-year mean. 4%. You hear me right? Can you do 4? That's not a national catastrophe? A worldwide catastrophe? So this is how derelict the marine biologists are, including on this campus. There aren't marine biologists. This is Weber State. Kevin Blanch, the marine biologist in the desert of Utah. But up and down the coast, there's a marine biologist I've been arguing with at Cal Irvine in California, that this is how derelict they are. He told me that they emergency closed the crab fishing, which they did last month in California, where they've had an emergency close in Oregon the whole time, because of low weight. The same reason that the salmon are starving, the anchovies are starving. It's starvation. He tried to tell me they emergency closed the crab fishing because the gray whales are washing up starved to death. I'm like, what did you just tell me? This is the ignorance. I says, you trying to tell me that gray whales eat crab? I don't think so. Gray whales are plankton feeders. Shrimp and krill. Just like the salmon eat anchovies and sardines. What are anchovies and sardines? Plankton and krill. You know, the orcas, yeah, they eat the Chinook. They're starving. You ain't kidding, they're starving. But so are the grays. The tide pools are freaking 99% collapse. So this is the biggest story in the world. And this is the smoking gun of Fukushima. Now look, the tide pools were healthy pre-2011. I've got hundreds and hundreds of hours of tide pool footage. Hundreds, if not thousands. I've been working this up and down, and I shoot footage. And anybody that's been with me that's gone along, I don't cherry pick. I says, let's just go. I mean, they're not all gone. No, just 99% gone. And so this is a catastrophe. So all this just coincidence post-Fukushima? So people, I tell people all the time, you're trying to tell me that 3 full blown-out meltdowns being pushed into the Pacific Ocean on a daily matter, there's no consequence for that? Then why were we so worried about nuclear meltdowns? Why, culturally, have we always been so worried about nuclear meltdown? Oh, that's nothing. Yeah, let's bring back whooping cough. Let's bring back bubonic plague. I just got back from Primary Children's Hospital. This is heartbreaking, really heartbreaking. As you know, I'm an AML leukemia 1% survivor. Let's get my...
Yes, sir.
So, believe it or not, my little nephew, he's 2. His name's Charlie. I just left him. Little central line hanging out of his little freaking jugular vein. I just left there. It's heartbreaking. He's not even 3 years old yet. It presented in a tumor, just like mine did. He's in big trouble. I mean, he's got a stage 4 radical neurological freaking cancer into his bone marrow.
2-year-old.
2-year-old. And we know for a fact, because some of my nurses, and I've been reporting this on my website, that we have an outbreak of AML adult leukemia in children in Utah. No one seems to care. Now, nurses and doctors can't talk. We have what we call HIPAA laws, which were passed in the 90s in Congress, which are insurance protection. Oh, we want to protect the right. No. It's to protect these earth poisoners. They don't want people to know the real rates of leukemia. So, I mean, that'll drag me into what I want to talk about today at Weber State University. And I'm disgusted at this university as far as their disrespect for their family. There's no family here anymore. So I'm going to dedicate this show today to the great art professor, who was my art professor, who taught here for 30 years, and you talk to anyone that was one of his students. He wasn't just the great art professor. He was the psychologist. He was the mentor to so many young people. He was adored. I mean, loved. This guy, he would take the most awkward, messed up people and turn them into gems. This guy was a genius. His name was Arthur Adelman. Openly gay. He was a cutting-edge gem on this campus. So I'm over at the Water School of Art, and I says, what are you doing for Arthur? Who? What? I'm talking to the people that are, what are you doing? Huh? Who? What? Huh? What? Just like when Dr. Cooley died in the water. Who? What? They don't care. There's no culture here. Number one, they don't care. Number two, this is all just about their money. You know, give us your money and get off the campus. No wonder a commuter school. It's disgusting. You know, and it's like, Manuel, we were just talking, me and him and Cole, before the show started about, you know, he's a good Mexico boy. Which he's an IT genius who he's renaissanced this radio station.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
And so, but I'm like, well, what are you talking about? You're Mexican from Mexico.
Right.
You guys are just a bunch of rapers and murderers that fled the border.
And drug traffickers, remember?
Oh, yeah, you're drug traffickers, too. Yeah, you guys, nothing ever come good out of you, right? I mean, so
exactly right.
This is a great story. I want to hurry and tell this. So, at Lake Powell, I don't know if you know this. This is a new story that's out the last month or two.
Tell us it.
A guy down there has found 2 coins. You know, the lake's gotten so low and everything, just right on the trail. They've dated to 1280, one of them, and 1640 Spanish, which a lot of us, and including myself, have always believed that the Spaniards have been here for, 1,000 years. Spanish Fork after the gold, that would come in.
Right.
And so they're keeping it hush-hush. KSL's finally reported. This is a giant story as far as history departments go. Of course, do you see Weber State getting involved? I mean, archaeologically, historically. I mean, these are giant, beautiful stories that I thought that's what professors did. I thought that's what research departments did. I thought that's
what they're supposed to do, right?
Yeah, how come they don't anymore? Just like the media. We don't have any media. Everybody says, well, how did they do this, the Fukushima? Well, look who owns all the media. One company owns it all, and they're British. How did they pull this off this time? One by Jetstream, 2 by cable TV. So the truth and the reality has come down to this. We've turned ourselves into imperialists. It's all about our money, 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 money. Your feed went down on your computer here. I don't know if that matters. Just live streaming on Facebook. We're experimenting. He says we're good. So, environmentally, we don't have, our government is corrupt as hell. It's become a celebrity government. You don't run because you want to help the people. People run for office or work for the government for self-fulfillment, to, use their platform as a government official to benefit themselves, then move into the corporate world or celebrity world. I mean, Barack Obama, celebrity politician. That's what it's turned into. And I could see that at the president level, but at the local Congress, you should see our congressman, Bishop, walks around with an entourage now, like he's a king. And he's well, look how much money they make now. They make $160K a year now. Same with these professors.
They receive a lot of money from the lobbyists, right?
Yeah, it's so corrupt, and then it's just a revolving door.
Right.
That's how you advance yourself. It's a club. You just hand out these positions. So it's imperialism. I call it tax the future and give to my friends. That's what monarchs did.
Pure and simple.
It's imperialism. Which we fought back. So here at Weber State, we used to have these fantastic professors, this boutique academia, but academia is totally captured just like everybody, and everybody's fallen into this. They call it New World Order and the counterculture. There's nothing new about it. It's old as Babylon and evil as hell. Mexico, come on. We know the wars they've had over imperialism, and they fought back for decades. Well, who did they learn from? Spain. They learned from Spain. I always go back to, speaking of art, Arthur Adelman, which he used to, he did a lot for me. My art's out there. If anybody's just seen it, he's like, whoa, dude, whoa. I says, no, I'm going to switch. I was a BIS major here. I was one of the first by BIS, Integrated Studies, which was the honors department in those days. So I'm like, I'm going to switch exclusively to finance because I was doing finance and fine art and environmental economics. And it's Earth Day today, and I'm going to talk a lot about that in the next part of the show, but I want to talk a lot about greenwashing. Again, it all falls into the same thing here. Arthur Adelman to me, oh my Lord, you're really just going to go to finance. You're a brilliant artist. He says, a life of making money. How disgusting. And I guess we got some advertising going. I can hear it in my head. Oh, sorry. So, I didn't know.
Sorry about that.
We're figuring this out as we go. So, I says, you sell your paintings. You know, I'm not against so-called somewhat of guided capitalism. I'm not. But this isn't capitalism. This is imperialism. This is government money being looted and stolen at all levels, and populists that, just like the Jazz we were talking. You go down to those games, you take the family, spend $1,000 to watch that. Billionaire baseball players. I mean, I got my 1985 Mets shirt on.
There you go.
Dr. K. So in 1975, the average athlete in this country, and you don't think sports was king in this country in 1975? You know nothing. The average athlete in this country made less than 4% of the average working class. Less than 4 times the average working class American. The average CEO made less than 5 times the average working class American. Now,
how much are they doing today?
1,800 times.
Right.
And so that was as of a couple years ago. So we've had decreasing nominal wages for 39 communities, not to mention our consumption record. Look at these big, ugly, empty houses we build. We've fallen into this fairy tale. Oh, you're going to be in a mansion. You're going to be. It's a cop out. It's a death sentence. It's a suicide rap. You know, you're falling into this. It's not what I am. It's what the neighbors think I am. You've fallen for it. That's imperialism stuff. Pay the dragon slayer. So, you know, I want to talk. It's Earth Day today. I want to talk a lot about greenwashing. And if you don't know what greenwashing is what the Sierra Club, what all these institutions, what's the worst one of them all is that Patagonia guy, on the salmon clutch. You hear him anything? Oh, they still want to blow up the dams. I'm like, what does it matter if you blow up dams or the hatchery? We've had record escapement. What's that? That's fish that get to the sea. These salmon are dying at sea. I mean, you can Google, look it up. It took them 5 years. I hypothesized all this. I says, when Fukushima happened, they're going to lie, they're going to push it into the Pacific Ocean. It's going to break the ecology. It's going to break the eco chain. It's going to break the luminescence. And so, as Science 101, I mean, we all learned that when we were children in 7th grade science. You know, right here in Weber County. By the way, Weber County was one of the first school districts in the United States to celebrate Earth Day. I remember Earth Day when I was 10, when it was invented. You should have seen the celebration we had in Weber County. All the schools, it was real then. It was okay, and it was anti-nuclear energy. It was founded on anti-nuclear energy.
Do we still have that celebration today?
No. Nothing.
Nothing.
You see anything in the Union today?
No, nothing.
Which I couldn't believe. What have we turned into? I mean, the students have just gone along with this, that we're corporate whores. You know, our test scores are plummeting. Our graduation rate is plummeting. You know, just come up here and give us your money and get the bleep out. And they hire these professors from all over that are derelicts. It's a club. It's, you know, they're friends. They don't have any credentials. We've lost our great professors. So, yet students are going to school because the job market, you know, they say, oh, we have the lowest unemployment rate. Look up the participation rate. These kids are working 3 jobs because wages are so low and rent's so high. So they're going to school to economically survive. They're going to school for all the wrong reasons. And the professors are just taking advantage of it, doubling their salaries. I call it the academia bubble. Graduation rates, not just here in the United States, are free-falling. It's not because of bad students, overworked students. Oh, yeah. It's bad professors. I talk to these professors. They are ignorant. I mean, this guy's telling me they emergency closed crabbing in California. I said they emergency closed crabbing because they got low weight because they're starving, just like everything else is starving. Anchovies and sardines down 98% in the last 5 years. What eats anchovy? The whole eco chain's out of whack. I'm like, you're trying to tell me that a gray whale eats crab? Are you, what? This is so-called marine biologist. That's like, I'm a butcher, what's a cow? I'm a baker, what's a cake? I'm a fisherman, what's a boat? I'm an environmentalist. I'm a greenwasher. So the Sierra Club, when they got involved here in Utah, Ashley used to work for Hill. I worked for Hill. I had my central line hanging out of my jugular vein, and I remember on Earth Day, we were just talking about this at the hospital with my children. She says, remember on Earth Day, I had the girls, now her little boy's, in a fight for his life. She says, remember you ripped off your shirt in the middle of the Earth Day celebration down at Liberty Park with your central line hanging and went on that rant? I says, oh yeah, against nuclear energy, and that's back when we won. But the Sierra Club come in and hired away our good people because, we were all grassrooters. So we have these greenwashers. They're so-called green for profit. Like this, what's his name, Rashad, that owns Patagonia. He's a billionaire. Lives in Oregon. Look up what his stuff costs. It's turned into a profit industry. Now, the other side.
It's very expensive stuff.
Yeah, it's elitism. I'm elite. I'm green. I'm a well petter. I crash my boats in Monterey Bay into Star, which is against the law, but California will not enforce it. There's a 1,000-foot rule. So here the Pacific Ocean is in free fall. It's an absolute, and they've been going on for years. No, it hasn't. No, this is all post-Fukushima.
Right.
So, and then, well, you can look up the tests. The tests are all over. There's Geiger counter readings all over. They're seizing being tested. You choose to ignore the tests. People say they're not testing. Oh, yes, they are. It's posted. And number one, how are you going to test? You don't even know what it is. Nuclear meltdowns. So on Earth Day here, now, Earth Day in 1970, the anti-nuclear energy movement was gigantic. Now, the guy who started Earth Day, he's a Canadian. He and I did this really great radio show. He's a numerologist like me, blah, 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 blah. He changed Earth Day to 1/11 now. And he celebrates it in Eastern Canada. He's a gem. And that's the reason he did this. He's like, you don't deserve Earth Day. That's all they've done. These American manufactured, it's like American manufactured Jesus, Easter, let's go get some big, the whole thing. And you're going to be the next Cinderella. You fall into the same thing that monarchies had clear back in the day, which was pay the dragon slayer, which was, all family bloodline.
Oh, yeah.
And think about back in when this whole thing, these so-called communists in Spain, for instance, Franco. And if you don't know anything about Franco,
I know about Franco.
Yeah, and you should learn what happened to Europe. Why is Europe so? Their middle class is so strong now, and they're so. By the way, and there's. Don't get me wrong. There's players in here. There's still billionaires. In fact, the billionaire in Denmark, which is rare to have a billionaire in Denmark, the fashion designer, 3 of his children was killed in that Sri Lanka bombing yesterday.
Oh, yes, that's true.
3 of his kids.
Yes.
And so, so you go back to Europe, European history, and this, the neo-feudalism that went on forever, and this monarchy system. Well, it was the artists who fought back, right? Arthur Adelman knew that. He was a great art historian. He was great. We talked, I like Goya. I said, Goya, 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 Picasso, Picasso. And Goya and Picasso, they fought him. They stood up right up in his face. Dali fled. Salvador Dali fled here. I don't know how Picasso was not killed. He was fearless. And a lot of them fled, of course, to Mexico, which,
Many fled to Mexico.
Which, come on, Mexico is Spain. Spain is, come on.
Yeah.
Practically
they are.
Yeah. And
very,
so,
very interrelated.
What do they speak?
Spanish.
Not the Queen.
Spanish.
So, by the way, and I got in an argument with a professor here not that long ago. This is how ignorant. I says, no, this was Mexico when the Mormons got here. No, it was old Spain. No, the Mexicans took it over from Spain.
Yes, since 1821, Mexico get the independence from Spain.
Right.
So when the Mormons get here, it was already Mexico.
Yeah, and then it flipped that year in 1848. My grandfather was at the tree in Monterey, not Mexico. What was the capital? Yeah, it was the capital, the old Pacific capital. John Lewis Stevenson, again, literature. So Salvador Dali did a great interview when he fled here. And he said, well, Goya and Picasso swore allegiance to the communists, which basically the word communism and capitalism was flipped. It was just the counterculture to Franco. And Salvador Dali says, so are you a communist? And he says, I certainly am. Not. What'd you say? I certainly am not. But so many of them fled to Mexico City. So my favorite story back to art about Mexico is, of course, Diego Rivera. You know, and we know Frida was a hell of a lot better artist than him. She was a gem. So
She was a gem.
oh, I've been in that house in Mexico City. And so Diego Rivera, so here's the great, and they were real capitalists then, Vanderbilt and crew in New York City. This is in the 20s and before the collapse. So they'd hired Picasso to do the mural in the Rockefeller Center.
That's right.
Well, Picasso faked like he couldn't come, but Picasso was going to have...
He refused to do it.
Right, he ain't going to do that. He ain't working for the capitalists.
He wouldn't do that.
He wouldn't do it.
It was not in his veins.
Nope. Exactly. And so, Salvador Dali Diego Rivera, who, by the way, was a very lazy artist. He didn't... I'm a fresco artist. I do my own plastering. But he had a great crew. Did some great work. And so, he had a show at the MoMA right there. And so, Mrs. Vanderbilt, I think one of the Rockefellers, you know, the oligarchs, went to the show, and they're like, they met him, you know, the VIP, and I says, well, oh, we love your work. You're a fresco, yeah. Well, Picasso says, would you be interested? Not really, he says. Well, we'd pay you this, blah, blah, blah. He got talked, yeah, I'll do it. And the reason he finally agreed to do it, he says, I can stick it to him.
Right.
And there was a bunch of countercultures from the United States, academias, writers, poets, that were in Mexico City, that in his colony, his crew, his friends. Stick it to him. So he did. So he did this incredible fresco that stood on the wall there forever. And one day, Mr. Vanderbilt there, and a reporter from the New York Times says, well, can I interview about the Diego Rivera, the communist, spoof on you, what he did to you? And he's like, what are you talking about, communist? Diego Rivera did this as a communist. What? What? Let me show it. Don't you know? I thought everybody knew this.
Get rid of that mural right now.
Yeah, he says, well, let me see that guy right there? That's you. See that? That's J.P. Morgan. See that? That's Rockefeller. And see what this depicts? Oh, my God. He had a crew in there the next day, and they freaking chiseled that thing out. Hello, gone. One of the great pieces of art in freaking world history. Well, that's what they're trying to do here. That's what they're trying to do at Weber State. You know, they're changing. They take down the murals. They take down the statues. They tear down the buildings. You know, the Mormon Battalion marker is missing. You know, that's what they're up to here because they've been That's everybody says, well, how'd they do it? One by Jetstream, two by cable TV. Who owns all the media? Just look it up. Just start Googling. Not just CNN and Fox News. Fox News. I remember when Fox News came into the country, and our community and everybody had half a brain says, really? They bought up America's pastime? The thinking man's sport? Baseball? They bought the contract on baseball, and then they didn't show baseball. We all knew what they were up to. They're going to turn it, you know, and then it went to football. But they didn't want the sophisticated thinker, the beatnik, the writer, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. They wanted to loot that and tear it apart. They want to sell them a fairy tale. Cinderella, you're going to marry Prince. You're going to play in the NBA. You're going to be the next King James, 1 in a million. You know, come be an NCAA slave. Play basketball here, and you could play in the NBA. Well, we have one here, Damian Lillard.
Right.
But out of how many? They sell you a fairy tale. That's a 1 in a million. They change the lottery. That's old neo-feudalism stuff. And the state's gone along because they bought them. And they own all the media, including the local newspapers, including this Homeland Security, the 9/11 gift that just keeps on giving. So, you know, what is the United Kingdom, right? Kingdom. Still called the United Kingdom.
Kingdom, yeah.
How about the Saudi Arabia?
That's another monarchy.
Kingdom, right?
Another monarchy.
How about the Japanese Empire? Did we not?
Empire.
Yeah, but we took them. Abi. So Ricardo Iki, the most famous athlete, speaking of, you know, she's full of leukemia. Now, I got news today from an activist in Japan who sent me some. There's one of the real famous pop singers over there right now, 18. who has leukemia. By the way, I found some pictures of Ricardo Iki right before she got sick. Guess where she was this fall? Southern Utah.
Huh.
On vacation. Oh, talk about throw a little Fukushima with a little freaking open air tests and a little freaking uranium tailings cocktail together. What do you get? You get leukemia. And so Earth Day was based on anti-nuclear energy. That's how Earth Day started. They've completely hijacked Earth Day, and then the greenwashers, which has turned into Greenpeace. You know how much money Greenpeace pulls in a day? I mean, I know the guy who's the CEO down in California, lives in San Diego. I mean, the guy's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Think about that whole concept. It's disturbing. You know, when they change these tax laws, you know, the NFL's a nonprofit, by the way. What did I read, Goodell? That made $400 million last year? Some ungodly, sickening. And
that's a lot of money.
It's disturbing.
It's disturbing.
By the way, I'm an economics guy. So, the average American, you can Google, the website I like to use is thedebt.org. And it's, you know, it goes through everything and it's in real time. But the thing that is, people don't realize, the cash economy in this country is bigger than the real economy right now because the exploitation of so-called Mexican labor. That's what this whole thing's about. It's about the people that are screaming the less. It's real easy to police immigration. We've always known how you police immigration through labor laws. The enforcement of labor laws. We don't enforce labor laws. We got people working 24 hours a day for chump change, which is against the law. Who's the lawbreaker? Not the exploited. It's the exploiters. Real easy to clean up, including Trump.
And servers working for $2.50 an hour in restaurants.
It's outrageous.
That's outrageous because they depend on the tips.
Yeah, so they throw that.
How crazy is that?
It's insane.
It's insane.
I mean, again, just so this whole out of whack system, this Ayn Rand Greenspan science fiction economics 0% interest rate in this house of cards. You know, the debt's $22 billion, but okay, so these athletes, professional athletes, I mean, you're seeing baseball contracts now, billion. Can you do a billion?
With a B.
Yeah, you know how many million is a billion? 1,000.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. And these are baseball players, the working man's class sport. You can't even go to a game. The jazz players, we're going to root for billionaires. You think they care? You think these players care? They're ready for vacation.
Oh, yeah.
They don't like the culture, whatever. So the average American right now, and the feds will tell you, that makes $36,000. Total lie. Because of the cash economy. Do you know the average American in the United States right now is making less than $20,000 a year? It's right around 18. That's a fact, Jack. And, try me. And it's $18,000 a year. Start doing the math on rent. So you're going to be, the 1%. And everybody's gone along with it. Well, that's monarchy stuff. That's old imperialism stuff. You're going to marry a prince, Cinderella. You're going to be the next American Idol. Look what they did to music. It's the same thing. It's American manufactured now. They take all these kids from these Disney shows and turn them into pop stars. They manufacture artists now. There's no grassroots musicians. Oh, there's lots of grassroots musicians, but they have no platform. By the way, Prince died 3 years ago, I believe yesterday, on the Queen's 90th birthday, as Barack Obama held the baby, little baby King George. So, the greenwashing on Green Day is just like everything else in this country. Now, when do we fight back? I don't know, but I'm amazed how people are willing to go along with this Ponzi scheme, especially at the academia level. I'm so disgusted up here. You talk to these, none of them are from here. These professors they're pathetic. I mean, not all of them, just 99% of them. We have some good nursing schools, some people that are doing as far as trades, but the art school, one of the greatest art professors in the history of this university, most beloved, probably the most beloved art professor in the history of this university, Arthur Adam, was passed. What are you going to do for him?
And people don't know him.
Who? What? Because there's no culture here. The culture is gutted here. It's about money. So these professors, they got grad students teaching their classes. They fly around to symposiums. They really think they're some kind of monarch. They think they're serfs. Again, old monarchyism. And that's where we are in this country. How did they, one by Jetstream, two by cable TV. So, we've been recolonialized, and they don't even have to have a military this time. We're doing it for them. Think about the United States, what we've done in the last post-1980. Look at how we've colonialized this world. I mean, went off to Afghanistan to kill the Taliban. How long have we been there? That's not a war. That's colonialism. Now, who are we colonializing it for?
Yeah.
It's an occupation. It's colonialism. Now, who we calling? Now, Prince Harry is moving to Africa. But he's got a half African-American wife. She's not African-American. It's, in blackface, so just like Barack Obama. The African community goes for him. Really? Whitey from Kansas there? Nothing African-American about him. The polygamist, grew up in Kansas with the mother named Stanley. Nothing. These guys are he's on Sir Branson's yacht. And then Trump, he traces right back to the Bavarian Nazis. I mean, the English royal family is not English. Remember they changed their name in World War II?
That's true.
That's right. And so, Mexico got it. Mexico had this fight. They held on the longest. That's why they still are somewhat organic down there. But they're the ones that freaking fought back against imperialism the longest. Remember, you guys had a king when the Mormons got here. And Captain Brown was my great-great-grandpa's partner, Abraham Hunsaker. So Captain Brown bought all these deeds from the king.
Yes, we did have Maximilian.
Yeah.
Maximilian the First of Mexico, Emperor of Mexico.
Emperor of Mexico.
Yes, imposed by the French.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why we say about Cinco de Mayo, right?
Exactly. They fought against the
French, against the French.
Against the French. They actually defeated, the Mexican army defeated the Napoleon's army from Europe, from France, in Mexico.
Yeah.
They came and attacked, and they were defeated.
Yeah, that's Cinco de Mayo, right?
Yes, that's Cinco de Mayo. That's why it's a great victory for Mexico.
Yeah, and so I always go back to Santa Anna. I mean, of course, he was a Spaniard, oligarch.
Santa Anna was involved in that victory.
Is that where Santa Anna lost his leg?
No, it was Zaragoza.
Zaragoza lost his leg.
Zaragoza.
He's an interesting figure, isn't he? Wow. Speaking of the Spanish coins.
Oh, yes.
Now, you remember they found the marker on the wall last year, 1776, and that was Father Escalani's crew in the canyons in Utah. So, who was here first? Now, what are Mexicans? Come on. Natives, but they got bred by Europeans, right?
Right.
And so, I always go back to Steinbeck, Tortilla Flats, and then Santa Barbara, the Gauchos, and, who's the first, that Orwell wrote about. He says it becomes as natural as unleashing cattle onto the Argentine landscape. And the first people to do that was here in Santa Barbara, was the Spaniards used to come and dump their cattle in Southern California on their ships.
Huh.
And so, really, I always go back to that crazy movie. Did you ever see that movie, Manuel, that Mel Gibson did? And it was his, because he's a fundamentalist, Irish Catholic. Boy, well, he fakes it. He fakes it like Bono does. They fake like they're really Catholic.
Which movie is that?
The one where they showed the Mayans cutting their heads off.
Apocalypto.
Whoa.
That's a masterpiece, man.
Whoa, is that movie intense? But
that's a crazy movie.
It is a crazy movie, but let's get real. He tries to say that these indigenous people were just all mass murdering each other and the Europeans got here and saved them. It's a total lie. It's the opposite of that.
They committed a genocide.
Why were they here?
The people.
For the gold.
For the gold. Period.
Where's the biggest open gold mine in the world? Right here. The Bingham Open Copper Mine. Who owns it? Rio Tinto, Kennecott? The Queen. I used to work out there, straight to the thing. So, they've been after the natural resources here for decades. So they've been fighting over this rich place called Utah, with this rich place called the United States and natural resources. The French royal family. The Russian. Why is it called the Russian River in Southern California? The Russians were here. And so, these monarchies, which they're all cousins. So I want everybody to Google this right now. They found Anastasia's bone pile, the family, the Ramona family. They found it in the 90s. They dug it up. They got some DNA. So they ran a worldwide DNA study to find out who the heir to the Russian throne. Now, by the way, you think that the Russian throne are Russians? Bavarian Nazis. They're all the same. Same with the Swedes, same with the Saudis. They're all cousins. Remember they were called the Bleeders? Same old theme, 1916. So they ran the DNA swap. Guess who the heir to the Russian royal family is? Has the closest DNA match?
I don't know.
Prince Harry.
Really?
Yep. And Prince Harry's now moved to Africa. So I call him the new Cecil Rhodes.
Wow.
Does any of you know about Cecil Rhodes? So Cecil Rhodes, you know, the English Rothschild's baby, he colonialized Africa. The greatest hardcore racist in history. He was a pedophile. Remember Rhodesia? He had his own country. De Beers, the diamond thing is all. That's his baby, which diamonds are not finite. They're like gold. And so now they're trying to reclone. And then you have the Chinese royal family. You have the English royal family. You have the Russian royal family. Putin's a czar. Do not kid yourself. He's not a president. How long has he been president? That's not a president. That's a czar, which is word for king. So same with Z in China. So it's the same old thing. You've got these monarchy families, Saudi Arabia. So do you know how Saudi Arabia came to be named Saudi Arabia?
No.
So when they found oil over there, this is all Rothschilds, Rockefellers. This is Rockefeller's baby. So the Saudi family took over the kingdom. So it's named after the Saudi family. The Saudi Arabia was named after, you know, we go back to the Ottoman Empire, but this is different. It's oil, propped up by Sinclair Oil, propped up by Rockefeller. We invented that place, which, you know, created 9/11. Remember the Bin Ladens were the ones who built up the kingdom with Bechtel. Bechtel built the kingdom.
Wow.
You go back to 79 when we had the Iran-Contra controversy and maybe they took the hostages. Ayatollah is a Asahola was the big hats everybody wore on this campus. I was in college then when it happened. Right here, Weber. Ayatollah is a Asahola. That was what everybody had. And they took it over. Bechtel orchestrated that whole thing. And they, you know, flipped it. You know,
That's right.
And then everything flipped from there on out. John Lennon was killed right after that. Again, who's related to the royal family?
The Ayatollah we are talking about is Ayatollah Khomeini, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Remember that in 79?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it really was a cultural gigantic shift. We had increasing nominal wages in the United States from 1945 to 1979. In my class, I used to say, name the most strongest middle class, most socialized people in human history. Name where and when. And remember, I taught at the Water School of Business when it was the #1 MBA program and undergrad in the country. You don't think I had students? You don't think I graduated with Mikado, the heir to the Japanese royal? These are the kind of kids that came here. The best of the best. It was the #1 school in the country. Now it ranks 480, supply chain. So,
Wow.
yeah, they're a joke. They don't even know who Clyde Cooley is. I says, you seen the pictures on the wall over there? There's a picture of him on the wall, him and Kyle Madsen. Why do you think there's a picture of them on the wall? They both died young of cancer. So, I mean, the whole dynamic flipped so fast in 1980. You know, so we had these incremental nominal wages. So I asked my class this, you know, name the strongest middle class, most socialized people in history. Name them. You know, we're talking smart kids, really smart kids. Silk Road, first, second century. Oh, you're close. Norway, 1980. Sweden made it. Oh, close. Austria maybe today. Very strong middle class. How about the Netherlands right now? Very strong middle, but they have people that are exploiting the system there
What about
too.
the Scandinavian countries?
Oh, they ranked high, but that's kind of going away now too. Sweden, you know, there's quite a few billionaires over there now. You know, the globalization, the new world order, which isn't new, it's old world order. I love it how they call it new. Savage and guys like that were paid to call it new. It's the oldest thing in history. It's called imperialism. It's been going on since the time of man. You know, it's kings and queens. Remember, the Atlantic Conference was no royal. So once in a while, a student raised his hand. He'd get it right. Say, oh, that's easy. That's the United States of America from 1945 to 1978. You know what the tax rate was in this country? On the 1%? 96%.
Right.
400% tariffs. Everything was made in the U.S. And I mean everything. This country was so socialized, it was the middle class had all the power. It was taboo to be a billionaire because we're coming off the thing. And so now how we flip all that. And again, the Christian thesis was big here because they were anti-usury, speaking of Easter yesterday. That's the thing that gets me, not even the economics of it. You're willing to go in debt. So I like to watch studies because I'm a socioeconomist. I'm an economist by trade. So these studies go back 1,000 years. The one thing that people are unwilling to talk to anybody about, even a doctor, anybody, let alone in public, and they rank them. Number one has always been sexuality. It's been sexuality for 1,000 years. About 15 years ago, that changed. You know what the number one thing people are unwilling and uncomfortable and will not talk to even a doctor when they're having health issues? Their debt. So the house of cards is on. So we have this debt structure here. I mean, the federal debt is very reflective of personal debt. Look at student debt. It's a national catastrophe. Our debt's $22 trillion. Does anybody even talk about it? So we've turned into this place, this oligarchy through government. Trump's the worst. The Bavarian Nazi. My friend calls him the Trojan horse.
He is like a Trojan horse.
Yeah, he's the imperialist. Exactly. And his wannabes. He comes. They're all related. The old royals, remember, and we all learned this in World War I history. Didn't we all get taught World War I history? Which spilled into Mexico. I mean, hello. Where was Trotsky when he got the axe to the head?
He was there.
Yeah, he was the last.
Mexico City, yes.
So when this whole thing started that led up to World War I, started in Russia. My favorite radical is Dorothy Day, the Catholic Workers' Right. She's a San Francisco girl. People don't know that. They think she's an Irish girl. Oh, no, she was born in the Bay of California. She was in Russia when World War I broke out. She's the activist. So they were called the Whites then, not the Reds, which was Lenin, right? Well, his brother had been killed. Remember, it was the girl who murdered the Russian Tsar. It was, what's her name? She murdered the Russian Tsar. And then, of course, you go to Austria, which in Sarajevo, when they started World War I, and
they killed the prince.
They killed the king.
The king, Francisco Fernando.
Yeah, they killed him. And what did they use to shoot him with? A Browning gun. A Browning gun. Don't tell. Shh, you can't talk about that around here. Shh, you'll get yourself in big trouble. Don't talk about the great war profiteers that.
Kind of hush.
Yeah, shh. The sound of war profiteering silence, like the ultimate cancer, it grows. So you can't talk that around here, Kevin Blanche. So anyway, so the monarchies came apart, and these wars were on. This vacuum was created. I mean, the blood in Europe. I tell students, you want to really understand how these things come apart. Austria. Oh boy, blood. Germany, all, but Spain. That civil war went on for how long?
Horrible for years.
Decades.
For years, for almost 2 decades, yeah.
I remember in the 70s when I was a kid, on the news, Walter Cronkite, Dan Rather, Dan Rather, the guy who went into Vietnam and broke their back, who got fired for calling George W. Bush the greatest journalist of our time, got fired for telling the truth. George W. Bush is a draft dodger, when George W. Bush was a draft dodger, just like Clinton, just like Trump. So they fired him. Well, who bought CBS News? The British, which aren't British. By the way, speaking of Napoleon, a lot of people don't know this story. This is how much we forgot World War I history. Napoleon was not the bad guy in Europe. Remember, he was with the French Revolution. He was the anti-monarchy guy.
Exactly, yeah.
He had Wellington whipped, didn't he? He had him beat. They were done. The English royal monarchy, Wellington, were done. Remember Rothschild had his pigeons? And he sent his carrier pigeons back to the, stock market to see who really won. They called in their cousins. And their cousins finally showed up at the nick of time. Where did their cousins come from? Russia. The Russian czars are not a Russian. They're Bavarian Nazis, just like Trump. I mean, these are, trace the bloodlines. Everybody says they're not bloodlines. Go to Bill Gates. Go to Jim Bezos. Yeah, they're all related. You don't think they're all related now? Do you know that the Saudi royal family is related to all these people?
Really?
Yeah, they're only half Arab.
Oh, my.
Dig into their bloodlines. It's the same old theme, 1916. But you know who gets this? The only people on earth that get all this still are in Northern Ireland. They still get it. By the way, this is a sad story. I need to talk about this. Then we'll get back to the greenwashing. So, the that was, the whole monarchyism, imperialism came tumbling down. But so Forbes, who I hate, that guy, he promotes more imperialism anyway. He's right out of the House of Windsor. He promotes all these billionaires 30-30. So this Elizabeth Holmes, who had this therium blood testing when everyone is propped up, who was a fraud on trial right now. But he propped up this young journalist from Northern Ireland. And she was, they call themselves the Republicans over there. She was on the other side of the Republicans,
Exactly.
In the Name of the Father. If none of you know anything about this, I want you to watch the movie In the Name of the Father. It will teach you a lot about the Irish's battle with the monarchy, which they know that these are not English. The family that rules the kingdom, and they've been fighting against this monarchy for centuries. And how long, who stole Bongo's trousers? Dorothea Reardon, who passed away recently, with their tanks and their guns and their bombs in your head, 1916, same old theme. That is one great line. She passed recently, but so they propped up this young woman. And that's what they do. They find these useful idiots, they prop them up. Well, their weekly protest, it's this time of year. Shot rings out in the Memphis, over there, Bloody Sunday. So in April, this is one of the major protests in Belfast. It's still on. She shows up in the street. Well, they all know she's propped up. Oh, they shot her dead. Whoa. They don't mess around. That's what people don't realize in a lot of parts of this world. These people, here we do a passive aggressive. We beat violence out, rightfully so. I don't believe in violence. But they do it subtly. Other parts of the world, it's like I'm part of the Million Mass March. I hear people all the time around here appreciate they'll have shirts and because I'm involved. I'm the guy who invented the Million Mass March and John Ashley, which are all fantastic. A lot of them. Some of them are fantastic, but let people say, "Oh, I'm an anarchist." Oh, when people tell me that, I boycott. I say, "Do you really know anything about this? You call yourself that? What have you blown up with? Do you realize how hardcore what that means? And don't be calling yourself that." Oh, we had the bombings at the stock exchange in the 1920s. Which was those were Italians, the true anarchists. Oh, like what happened in Sri Lanka yesterday. Oh, but it's nothing new. It's nothing new. And we boogeyman it here, and we're going to be the police so we can colonialize the gift that keeps on giving, the 9/11, which the Saudi royal family funded that. Trump used to go up on it, rightfully so. Trump was good on that, but now he's in bed with them. Are they useful idiots, or are they, I don't know. But Obama was terrible, in blackface only. We thought, I voted for Obama because I was a peace activist. I still am. And I worked with Pro Peace. I did a lot of work in this area. And, I knew George Long personally. He was an anti-war guy, by the way. You guys propagated him all over this university, when they swung Flint Taylor's body like a flag up there and floor line George Walling's name like that. George Wall was a peace activist. The most decorated man here that anybody who saw World War. And so the peace movement was giant, and Obama had voted against both wars. And everybody says, well, look at their voting record, which I did. I wasn't going to vote for Hillary. She voted for both of them. And I knew she was, a corporatist, Rothschild's baby in the tail. I knew so was Bill Warner. We were on the same bike. And so he betrayed her. He wasn't anything to me. He just lied to her. He didn't do anything for anything. And so Trump's the same brand. He just right up in his face about it. But the thing he's got the right fooled, just like Obama fooled the left, he's got him fooled in believing that he's this USA monarchy. Him and a B, the Prime Minister of Japan, they're buddy. They pulled off the biggest sham in history to cover up a fake thing. Not to mention, they got Abiy reelected. Now, you're only president for 2 years in Japan. Delta by the Sea after World War II, 1,000-year-old treaty. You have to call a special election. We have to okay that, which we did. So they boogeyman North Korea. And then all of a sudden, North Korea is Trump's best friend after Abiy gets reelected. That is, either he's the wannabe monarchy or he's in They get it in Mexico, by the way. I mean, go talk to them about imperialism. And by the way, Mexico, the Catholic Church did a number on them. Keep breeding, overpopulate your place. They did the same thing to Ireland. And so, is he an atheist? Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, I'm not an atheist, but I sure don't believe in what the Catholic Church stands for. I like Jesus Christ, the crazy, the radical, the socialist who, I tell you, where's my sleeping whip? I'm going into the state capitol and I'm going to tip over the tables. Not only that, how about Jesus Christ is anti-usury standard? By the way, Jesus Christ was a Jew. He stood up against his own people. He stood up against the only thing he practiced in, loaning for profit. Now we have buy here, pay here, and that's what Mormonism, a lot of the so-called old school Catholicism. The evangelical movement, all hijacked. It's the opposite now. Again, academia, they've hijacked it. These people have been subtle about it because there's been no resistance. You're overworked, you're listening, you're hypnotized by Fox News, CNN, and they're all the same people, different nuances. It's like the Democrats, Pelosi says, this young AOC, which I know her personally. She used to show up to my rallies. The young woman. AOC. Yeah, Cortez. So she's a gem. She's a genius. She used to show up to my rallies in New York City. I did a lot of anti-nuclear. She's anti-nuclear. She gets it. And so I love it how Nancy Pelosi, how she still said, a glass of water with a bean could have beat her. I'm like, I emailed Nancy Pelosi's staffer because I know her from my work on I said, don't you remember who she beat in the Democratic primary? Nancy Pelosi's buddy, who would probably, if this young woman wouldn't have beat this guy, he would probably have Nancy Pelosi's position. I think he was the third highest ranking Democrat in all of Congress. She beat him. When are you going to get a young, good, dynamic person to run against Nancy Pelosi in the Bay Area? Your IT oligarchy is the Pacific Ocean die. Right there, I thought you people were about the ecology. Again, greenwashing. Up is down, black is white. I'm a butcher, what's a convict? Earth Day, yay, fairy tale. Earth Day isn't about putting a peace sign on your freaking shirt. And, I had a table last year. My gallbladder ruptured last year on Earth Day. Guess who sponsors Earth Day in Weaver County? Westinghouse. Who makes the spent fuel and builds nuclear reactors and freaking poisoning the earth? That's how they've done it. Well, we know, but we take their money. It ain't all about money. I think a lot of Mexicans still get that. I think a lot of the Mexican culture, and people don't understand that culture, and then they get branded. There's a bunch of currently out. They got their problems. Do not kid yourself, especially in this end of Mexico. I spent a lot of time in San Diego, as you know. You know how many murders in San Diego, the city of San Diego, was last year? The whole year. Now, you believe Trump, you think thousands in San Diego going up. 29. San Diego is one of the safest cities in the world right now. Go across the border, which I do all the time, because the access I work. Go to Tijuana. How many murders were in Tijuana last year? All of them. Yeah, the whole country. 3,000, I believe. And it's all drug cartel and stuff pushing into the United States border. So back to Santa Ana. I want to talk about him. In the Spanish kingdom, and New Spain, they're just still fighting over this. But when Polk invaded, he would have never dared try it. Because Santa Ana is set up here on the border, way up here in what we call New Mexico now. He was afraid of him. The Spanish, but he had to retreat to Mexico, and they took the chance. When they got there, they got to his ranch there in what is northern Mexico now. And the only thing left in there was his prosthetic leg. And so, but they raised the American flag, but the American populace went crazy. They called him an invader. He lost the presidency because of it. And then they moved the border back. So the bottom line is, as far as the border is a fence as people, why don't we enforce labor laws? Why don't we start treating people fairly? If if everybody treated each other fairly, billionaire baseball players, billionaire basketball players, that's monarchy. Sell them this fairy tale. You're going to win the lottery. You're going to be the next, American Idol. You could come record your music on KWCR. You do that, right? We'll be grassrooters. We'll give you a platform. Yeah, we'll let you hear your music. You don't have to go kiss Sony's ass, So, and we're trying to bring this all back. We're going to start broadcasting the basketball games. Me and Cole are going to do it. We're going to start broadcasting. We're going to take back our sport from the NCAA. Which, by the way, the NCAA will go at us for that, saying under college radio umbrella, we can legally broadcast live from these sporting events, and we're going to do it. Right, it's legal. That's the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, even with the Patriot Act. Bingo. And it's a teaching tool. You're a teacher, right? And it's been ruled over and over and over and over, so we're going to take it back. And so the NCAA is a slave. The NCAA has nothing to do with the university. It's a group of lawyers. The AT&T free throw, the Chick-fil-A freaking, 2-minute warning, blah, blah, blah. Corporatized, and these student athletes being exploited to the 10th power. They get nothing. How many of them actually make the professional sports? I read 1 in 600, but I think it's even higher than that. Do girls that play softball, we have a great softball team, do they play professional? No. Go to the Olympics and get leukemia in 2020 in Fukushima. Yay. We have Olympic athletes all over this freaking campus. We have historical Olympic athletes on this campus. So they do it for the love of the sport. That's what it should be. They shouldn't be exploded for the NCAA's profit. Or the university's profit, for that matter. It should be non-profit. Sport should be in a university, especially a state, non-profit. And we're going to take it back. The highest paid state employees in every state are football and basketball coaches. Outrageous. Fire them all. Put a cap on it. 50,000. 50,000 the most coaches. And by the way, you'll have a better team. Money doesn't buy winners. Ask Kyle Whittingham. They suck. Look how much money he makes. So we're going to take it back. And that's the only way we do it. If us old timers got to do it, we got some young ones, right?
Yes.
But we're going to show the way. That's what we're going to show the way because we're elders.
There you go.
We call this in Austria. They call this your wisdom beard. It used to be required to have one of these, and this is as far as mine grows. Which they'll tell you, that's what wisdom beards do. They go right here and stop. So that they say that's an historical way to tell when you've got there. So I got my wisdom beard. It's a little off center. It's a little out of tilt.
Awesome, Kevin.
So, but we have to show our wisdom. I'm not that old, am I?
No, we're not that old.
No, but the youth, we have to care about our youth.